Hello, everyone, and welcome to discussion number 2 of the ONYI Love Heal the Healers initiative. Thank you all so much for joining me. I am ONYI Love. I also go by ONYI and many other names, and I am the founder of a brand, a company called ONYI Love. I'm a healing artist and priestess, and my work is to be a reflection to the collective, to remind us all of our beauty, our joy, our peace, our multidimensionality, that we have the power. We have always had the power. We have always had the permission to be who and what we actually are, what we came here to be. And so this is the second discussion to talk about an initiative that I recently launched called Heal the Healers. And I'm using the term, the word, the category healer very broadly, in the sense of those individuals that we typically or conventionally see as healers, and then those individuals who, in my perspective, and not even just in my perspective, in actually what they do, they are holding space for healing, holding space for education, holding space, serving the collective or collectives in specific ways. So they're dealing with the masses as individual people, as groups of individuals who come together in whatever organizations, whatever platforms that they belong to, and really the need to support them in healing themselves. They're human. We're all human. We all go through things. We all go through things. And yes, based on their training, based on their own dispositions, based on their own natures, individuals have done work, continue to do work, or in my perspective, should be doing work to heal their own things, to attend to their self-care, to ensure that they are the clearest channels in order for the universal life energy to flow through them in whatever ways are needed based on their careers, based on their vocations, based on the work that they're doing. They are doing the work to hold space and to not let their things get in the way of the work they're doing. And they're human. They're human. Their energy is taxed on. They hold space for so much, even more than we actually consider. And when the collective is going through things, AKA everything that we have been going through and continue to go through as the world or the world's pandemic, COVID, everything, they're right along in there with everyone else. It's not like they're off in some little bubble and then the rest of us are experiencing the things, and then when we need help we go to them and they've just haven't been experiencing that. No, they've been experiencing it as well. And on top of that, they're holding space for the people experiencing the things as well. So imagine that compounding. So I wanted to create my own initiative around this. And I imagine others have done their own initiatives or things to support them in healing. You hear about the coach's coach or the healer's healer. Who does the priest go to when they need divination and counseling? So this is my own iteration of that through the work that I do. And I'm so excited and really passionate about it. And I hope that you join me. If you yourself are a healer, space holder, first responder, medical practitioner, just if you're dealing with the collective in any way, an educator, and you need support, join. If you are any one of those individuals or not, and you have resources to support, join. This is a collective effort to help those who are healing, helping the collective to heal. So please join me. My website is www.onyi.love, and you'll see the opportunity for ways you can sign up to get more information and also indicate how you can help. Join me or do your own thing. To me, it just has to be done. It just has to be done. So today, because I wanted these discussions to not just be me speaking, I wanted to bring different individuals, whether it's one-on-one conversations we have or a panel, a group of individuals, a group of healers, a group of individuals who are interested in supporting this initiative, to talk about what this means, to talk about their own experiences and how they need to attend to their own healing and what that has led to when it comes to the work that they do in showing up for the collective. So my first guest is my sistar from another mistar, Sanyu Estelle, and I'm going to bring Sanyu in already, and then I'll introduce her while I have her on the camera as well. Hello, hello, Sanyu.
Hi,
Hi. I
hello.
was just introducing you, and I said your name, and then I said, but I'm going to bring her in and then do an introduction. So I'm going to embarrass her on camera in front of all of you. But this is my good friend, my closest friend, sistar, again from another mistar, who does amazing work for the collective,
Thank
for
you.
the collective of her friends and family, so those who are connected to her, close to her, the collective of those who are not her close friends and family, but we're all human family, so we're all family at the end of the day. But through the work that she does, and she calls herself the Word Witch, she is an etymologist, an ontologist. She deals in the realms of channeling through her voice, through spoken word, through sung word, through written word, through all the different things. And she can describe a bit more about what she does from her own mouth so you can hear. But she is, again, one of the individuals in this category of the healers and doing specific work on the esoteric, metaphysical, on the metaphysical side. And we need healing and support. We are human too, having this same human experience as everybody else. Just because we do this work and it seems so magical and amazing doesn't mean we're magical beings to where we don't need support. So, Miss Estelle, Miss Sanyu Estelle, and all the names, do describe who you are from your own words and a little bit about what you do.
Okay, I shall. Thank you, and thank you. Good to be here. So I am Sanyu Estelle. I am a claircognizant soothsayer. I am a dreamer. I am the word witch. There are many word witches. I just spell my the with two E's, so I'm the word witch. And in case you don't know, claircognizant means I'm clear knowing. I think of that as I know what I need to know, when I need to know it, about who and what I need to know it about for as long as I need to know it, and then I forget it. And I'm a soothsayer, just means I'm a truth teller. But I actually think the order in which I am those things is I'm a dreamer, soothsayer who is claircognizant. Um, and above all, personally, I'm a dreamer. Above all, professionally, I'm a soothsayer. And the means by which I communicate both is through my claircognizance and my word witchery, actually. So I would say it that way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm very fortunate to be a part of a platform that Sanyu is the co-lead, co-head of, called Dreamscapes. And we're right now in our winter cohort. So I'll definitely put all the information for how you can get in touch with Sanyu, learn more about her work in all the different ways, so you can really see again the power that she is channeling through her in all the different ways, personal and also professional, but they often overlap and intersect, and one informs the other to help you heal yourself. So let us help her heal herself in all the ways that she needs as well.
Ashe, ashe, and so it is. Thank you.
Welcome, you're welcome. And so I had wanted to bring on Sanyu actually as my first guest for this series of conversations with the healers, the space holders, the teachers, the first responders, the spiritual workers, and all those things. Because again, it's one thing for me to be like, and we need to have this initiative and do these things, but if ain't nobody, ain't nobody care, then it's really what am I initiating? But because of the conversations I am always in, because of what I'm witnessing, because of what I just know to be true, I wanted to have other individuals who share their experiences and what it means for them to hear something like a Heal the Healer initiative. What does that mean when you hear that? What does that bring up as far as kind of how you have needed support? How maybe you haven't felt supported or even understood by the collective because they see the commodity, which is your work, and they need that to support their own healing, yet they can bypass the human. Not that you need to let the human supersede the work that they came for, because again, they were coming to you to receive something. But how do we acknowledge, honor that, even if it's not in that space of the session, but to honor that before the session happens and after the session happens, so that you can continue providing these sessions from a place of wholeness, ease, and peace.
Mhm.
So for you, Sanyu, when you hear something like Heal the Healers, please share what that brings up for you in general as you consider it for the collective, but also maybe even personally for you, and maybe any experiences that you've had either in general or even just the last 2.5 years.
Oh yeah. Well, when I hear heal the healers, I feel support the supporters. Because Onyi and I talk about this a lot, but healing others is just giving them permission to heal themselves by you yourself leading by example and showing your own healing and your own ability to hold space for that as a result of having done that, and people being able to palpably, emotionally, physically get that from you, and then remind themselves that you're a reflection of them, and that if you can do that, they can do that. So I think about it like that, on a general level when I just hear heal the healers, because we already know it's a in and then out work,
Mhm.
and it's not something that you give. So if you're healing the healers, it means that you're healing because you couldn't do that otherwise, which I think is actually kind of beautiful thinking about that, because of even thinking about it that in the context of the more like socio romantic, intimate, erotic conversations we've been having, right? Like if someone can support you or make you feel held space for, supported, that is in direct result of them doing that for themselves. So it's actually kind of beautiful talking about the men that we've been talking about and how they've been supportive, because that means that they are doing that for themselves, which is how they can make themselves available to us to do that in the ways that they can, in the ways that they have. So it's giving each one teach one, it's giving lead by example, it's giving learn by through osmosis. Um, and of course, I've learned so much about that over the past 2.5 years, because my dad died I mean, I guess it's almost 2.5 years ago. By died, I mean transition, because we know the spirit lives. And just going through the shock, the physical shock of that, the physical shock being the constant reminder in day-to-day reality that that has happened, which I still do. I'll be driving down the streets, I'll be like, damn, my dad is really not on earth. I'll be saying like dead, but I mean not on earth. Um, and I have to actually remind myself of that sometimes, because so much of, and I thank you, Master Z, of my Tai Chi dojo, who said this, but he's like, when you're 10, a year is 1/10 of your life. When you're 30, a year is 1/30 of your life. And when you're 70, a year is 1/70th of your life. And so, it makes sense that time goes quicker because it's a smaller fraction of your overall experience. And so to mirror that, I would say, for 32, almost 33 years, actually for 33 years of my life, my father was incarnate in the world. And only for 2 and a little change has he not been. So the majority of my experience and my memory of him is living. He passed away when I'm fairly young, so that will not always be true. I will cross a threshold where he'll have been dead for as long as he was incarnate, and then I'll pass a threshold where he'll be dead for longer than he was incarnate, for me in my lived experience, and likely for my sister and my brother too, because I expect they'll live pretty long lives. But like, that's something that is not yet the dominant reality in my consciousness awareness. It's not that I don't know that it happened. It's just that my lived experience is less involved in that aspect of that happening, and coming out of the shock of just being in a new body, reminding yourself in the new body that like, this is the way that it is now, from here, for now. And then in a situation where that you apply that shock to every aspect of your being, particularly because when it's someone, if it's like a sibling or a parent or a grandparent, when it's somebody who's been there your whole life as you know it, then it's another thing to be like, oh, but I'm still alive and I'm still doing these things, but they're not there to witness them or comment on them or to reflect upon them incarnate, which means that I'm thinking about how they would think about it. So, there's a constant like zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, where I think when people are incarnate, that stops at them and then reverberates off of them back and forth. There's nothing for my thoughts to bounce off of in the material realm. So that makes it a lot more echo based, vibrational, like the sound goes out further and comes back from further, as opposed to having a quicker thing to sound off of and come back to. Yeah. So I'm constantly navigating that. And then also just knowing other people who have had very important people for them transition or who are in the throes of that experience. And knowing that even though I went through that experience and I literally know a part of how that feels, also realizing like I don't even have the words yet to be other than say, home space for you, hope you manage it, hope everyone does as good as they can, because really that's all you can do. There's no saying it will work out this way, it will work out that way, because the reality of my experience is that it's going to work out the way it works out. But I think when I don't know if it's if you haven't had the experience before, or whether you're still in the shock of that experience where you project that it will be okay because you think that's what people need to hear. But I think that when those things happen, people are realizing how okay it isn't. And so saying that is not a reflection of the experience they're having, which does not exclude it from the possibilities. Mm-hmm. But I think that, when you are healing, it's because you're going from the bottom up, or else you'd just be living. You wouldn't think of it as healing. You just be, I'm having an experience, I'm living my life. So I think in that context, it's just highly educational to see how it's experienced collectively, and over of course a pandemic and a quarantine, to be particularly immersed in the repetition of that experience, right? Just like any like widespread pandemic or disease, any regional warfare, anything, a natural disaster, anything that affects the collective on a day-to-day basis in a similar way. And I think that there's of course an infinite amount of things to be learned from death, or transition, or whatever we want to call it, and that it's when they say death is only the beginning, it's because of that. Like my dad's death was the beginning of a whole new world for his immediate family, for his friends, for so many people, and also the heralding of much more death, for reasons that people didn't expect, because people don't love, or like, I mean, some people say they hate cancer, but like people don't love disease and things like this. But when they hear about it happening, they're like, I know that happens. Whereas we went through a new thing of that, where we're like, oh, this happens now, like COVID happens now. New wars are happening now. And that is all to a part of what Master Z gave us, which is like the amount of years that you've had before that reality and the percentage of reality that makes up of your entire lived experience versus the other side of that. So I am healing. Simultaneously, I am healed, because there are versions of me that have healed, scabbed over, whatever. But then, a new wound or a new pain or a new discomfort. And then tending to that, and then tending to the next one, and then tending to the next one. And my hope is that it is not always that way, that we don't feel like we're always running to, the leak. Being like,
yeah, or catching up to the next version of ourselves.
Right. But I think that a big part of that has to be involves a lack of resistance. Like it is what it is. And that like you can make your way from there because it's the beginning of the story,
Yeah.
not the end of the story. So that part I'm still very much learning, but I am grateful for the learning. And of course, the catalyst of the learning, my father and his willingness to be the first to transition in the immediate family. Because it teaches me how to be all right with reality in a way that I think when you don't feel personally affected by reality, when you're still um, not simply convinced, but willing to believe it is what others say it is.
Mm.
And then you have what Stan, one of our old teachers who has passed, called an irreversible discontinuity. That you're like, oh, actually, reality can be anything. It can be very different. It can be not what I was convinced it was,
Mm-hmm.
not what it even was, right? Like, because it's not that wasn't real. It's just like it's no longer the realest real.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, okay.
No longer the most
Um,
relevant reel because another
right,
stepped into the place of relevance.
exactly. And it's funny, I was saying that to a client maybe last week or the week before, something that I've been trying to think about what what Bashar would call multiple personality order, what Stan would call shifting your perceptual apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it as the ride at the fair where it goes so fast you get stuck on the wall. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of it as a combination of that, where you're like what your position on that wall going round and round and round, and then the holiday doors in The Nightmare Before Christmas, where Jack is like looking at Halloween Town and Thanksgiving Town and Christmas Town, and he opens the door. So I feel like you open one of those doors, and then there is a version of you going like, and all the versions of you are choosing how to exit that door, and that determines your personality. But the door is like your perspective, your life, your existence, and then the wheel is the versions of you that you have been and will be and are.
Mm.
And that's been helping me on a physical level, sort of just accept the inconsistency
Mm.
/ lack of predictability of my experience.
Mm. Mm. Wow. No, thank you for all of that. A lot of things. My mind's like, um, kind of, I think, in order of everything you've been saying, the first thing that stuck to me was this image of mirroring, right? The supporters, each one teach one. And again, because healing, and even in me creating the title of this initiative, I have my own perspectives about what healing is and what a healer is. A healer does not heal you. A healer reminds you that you can heal yourself, and they are the reflection of that state, which is striking up against your own consciousness, your own body, your own biofield. And it's like ding 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 ding. Oh, gotcha, reminder. I know how to do this, whether it's shifting perspective or literally shifting body or shifting heart, shifting mind. Um, so it's like I understand how we describe things, and I use words very intentionally for the purpose of how do I trigger whatever needs to be triggered for each person. So Sanyu described all the different things that it made her think about, and that idea of mirroring. It's like when you are supporting the healers in their healing, you're tending to your own healing. So it's like you're doing the work by supporting the work. So it's almost like this like trickster, this trickster energy, like, I gotcha. You think you're just helping them heal, but you're helping yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even the healers, as they are doing work to hold space for you, they are healing themselves. You just heard from Sanyu the experience that she has been having and will continue to have in whatever iterations it comes and goes through, as far as the transitioning of her father and the questions that she asks herself, the experience of herself in this body, not having her father's physical body here in comparison with past versions of herself, that had that presence. And so what that shifting creates, the openings and closings of things. So it's interesting to really see and hear that idea of just that reflectivity, that mirroring. And one of the things that it makes me really think about, again, in really grounding in this energy of like heal the healers, is like, see your reflection in them, see their reflection in you, rather than putting them on a certain pedestal and having expectations of them that are outside of just the fact that, okay, when you go to someone to get specific healing work or teaching, or a space holder or first responder, there's specific activities that come along with the job, right? And so we can expect that, and hopefully they match that expectation. Otherwise, why are you doing the job? Outside of that, any expectations we have of them to do something that actually is not relevant to the specific job, it's like, let's think about that. What expectations do we put on these individuals that deny their humanness, that deny their humanity, deny their experiences?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we have compassion and grace for that? And when we are able to do so, or we're coming from that from ourselves, then again, it is helping and teaching us, because oftentimes, whatever lack of compassion or whatever inability we have or we create to see the healer or the other person, it's reflecting an inability to see that or give that to ourselves. So it's like the healing of the healers is inextricably linked to your own healing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when we come from that perspective, how do we then approach a healer? How do we then, when a healer is, when they are advocating for themselves and taking time off or setting their schedule in specific ways, or what all the things, how do we have grace and compassion for that and say, yeah, no, you need that. Because if you don't get that and that doesn't happen, then you're not going to be able to support me. And oh my gosh, they're doing that for themselves. Have I not been doing that for me? And how do I take that reflection from them and do the same thing for me? And so again, our healing is linked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we get to see, and again, she talked multidimensionality, talked about all the different elements and aspects of us, all the different frames from which we are coming and seeing and experiencing. Again, how do we allow for that across the board and allow the healers to be that as well? Because to put them in this rigid box on this pedestal and to project onto them the responsibility that is actually ours, we are keeping them one dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at them from one perspective that does not acknowledge the vast spectrum of them, which again is a reflection that we're not acknowledging the vast spectrum of us. So how do we see the vast spectrum of everything? And again, remember that we are all linked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I actually think about that recently. I remember something was going around like the meme social media verse where it was saying something like, I wish my enemies nothing but suffering or something like that. And I was like, nah, brah, because if they're suffering and I exist on the earth with them, what does that mean for me? Like, get your life together, please. Get better as soon as possible. I don't care how lowly you were. Like, get it together ASAP and then pay that shit forward. Because the point of healing and it being communal is like, you don't get to be completely healed until everyone is completely healed, because you will not know the full spectrum of the potential of that thing. Or, as the Shar would say, you don't have to invalidate what you don't prefer. But like, I don't want people to feel terrible or to believe terrible things. But if that is what they need, then I trust that they will get what they need to get through that experience. But I pray that they, do not require so much negative synchronicity, stimulation, and beliefs in order to understand that we don't have to invalidate what we don't prefer. So I wish them well, to be honest. And that's the one reason I could give an enemy a reading. First of all, you can't be my enemy because I don't have any. But like, I would give someone who offended me a reading basically because they have offended me. If they will receive the reading and not like interrupt me every 3 seconds, if they actually let it happen, why would I resist that? Doesn't mean we're friends. but we can be like humanity. We can be humanity together. That's okay.
And the interesting and paradoxical and trickster energy of that is, to offend someone is to have intimately engaged with them, but from a negative perspective, from a negative place. So they got close enough to do something. So that's an interesting thing. And then even going back to what you said about, the wishing, harm to my enemies. It's like, again, the whole reflectivity, I am you, you're me, even though they're your enemy because you perceive them that way. That's your own perception because you could perceive them differently, but you're hung up on what they did to then give them the title of enemy. They are you, you are them. So to wish them negative is to wish that for yourself if we are all reflections of each other. So whatever you put out there is what it comes back to you. So that's an interesting thing to even consider. It reminds me, because you had mentioned cancer and how people feel about or speak about cancer, and something that my teacher Zorn Hochstetter said in one of our pure bioenergy trainings was, it's you look at the body and healing and dis-ease and all these things, and in the language he was using, dis-ease occurs when there's either too much information in the body, energy is information, too much information, or not enough information. When you think about cancer cells, it's too much information, a proliferation
Yeah.
of your own cells, because there
Yeah.
is imbalance. So when people are like F cancer, all these things, on the one hand, I understand because you feel this negative energy and you're trying to get rid of it. You don't want the thing, you don't prefer it. But to then attack it from that place, you're attacking your own cells.
Mm-hmm.
So it's again, how do we shift the energy for ourselves? How do we support healers in shifting the energy for themselves? Because again, they're going to show up. For better or for worse, they're going to show up because they have signed that contract with existence, with life, with the specific collectives they are working with. However, small or large scale doesn't matter, but they have signed up to do that work, and they're going to show up. Sometimes you walk into a session and your healer, you're like, oh, they're doing great, they're glowing. And in the back of their mind, they're like, I still have to deal with father's death. I still have to deal with pandemic. I still have to deal with the thing, the unclean house, all the things. But it's like, push that to the side and let me do this reading. Push that to the side and let me do this energy healing. Push that to the side and let me do this counseling. Push that to the side, let me do this surgery. Push that to the side, let me go respond to this chaotic situation that's happening in these streets. Push whatever the case may be. Sometimes they're pushing that to the side. Some people know how to integrate it all. Say, okay, cool, I have all these things going on, I'm going to use that as potential to help me in this thing. Not a lot of people know how to do it. They have to, okay, let's put that to the side. And when we're going through this collective experience of like, we keep putting it to the side, because people keep coming to us. When do we have time for our own grounding and ease and healing?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is, interestingly enough, because of the way that society is set up to be negative and limiting, it's like first we learn how to do for others, and like then we learn how to do for ourselves. And then we learn how to let others do for us. And then we learn how to do nothing.
We're just tired of doing. I'm tired.
Yes, then we just be and we stop doing things,
Yeah.
And I do feel I'm in the arms of that journey, right? Like, because obviously as healers, soothsayers, first responders, frontline workers, like we too know when we are going through a major change, right? Like an upgrade, when we are in the arms of evolution, when we feel like we're being birthed into a new experience. Like I know the difference between when that is and isn't happening. It doesn't always happen the same way, but I'm always aware where I'm like, oh, this is a major, we changing for real, for real. Like we were coasting before, but now we're on another incline. And I always know when that's happening in every sphere of my existence. And the thing, because I was saying earlier, letting go of resistance, that allows it to happen more easily and allows me to be of more service to more people, because I'm not pushing so much stuff to the side that then it just takes me out. is making a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more space for those things, knowing that they're not in the way, that nothing is wrong, actually, that this is exactly what I'm supposed to be dealing with, and that I get to choose in what way I think is most efficient to deal with it. And that's the release that I get to control. And sometimes, there's a lot of resistance. Like, I've been knowing I need to write a book for 16 years and I am still lagging. Like, I am really still sitting in this house.
You were allowing space.
Yes, I am allowing space, but I'm also creating space that I don't need to create, but I'm choosing to create. So I guess I do need to create it on a certain level to have these conversations, to be an example, to get over myself, whatever the things may be. Like, we have the things that we want to achieve and the things that we want to meet, which is literally what I mean by achievement. Like, I have the things I want to meet. Think about that. I was thinking about this yesterday, actually. I was like, man, submitting writing to other people in like a smaller form, like a short story, or I applied to this paid newsletter competition, just things that have a portion of your writing. I've been applying and submitting to such things for at least a decade. I wouldn't say religiously, in a like rote routine way, but consistently. And, all the no's. And it's interesting because I think there's a part of you that wonders, is it that, I don't guess, a part of me wonders, is it that I keep doing this until I get a yes, because that tells me something about myself, that gives me some answer that I'm obviously seeking? Or is it that I'm thinking too small, and that the reason the book is important is because the book would be the yes, and then all the small things, it's not linear. It's not going to come in the order that I expect it to come in. It's not necessarily small and then large, especially thinking that as, like healer practitioners, health workers, any of these things, that we do go to the larger objective before we get to the macro objective before we get to the micro objective, which is like, I need to help other people. And then you're at a point where you're like, oh, I gotta help. So it does make sense that, and I guess that's why we also say, like, go big, right? Like, reach for the stars, so that when you're halfway, you're still higher up. It's not that we have to play it so small and wait for each morsel or like each thing to be given. Sometimes you can just go all in and get it all. I just haven't acted like I believe that yet. So like, that's something that I'm working on personally right now. In addition to dad stuff, there's that with work and like my vocation and my purpose and what it does all for. And then there's also that with my personal life, right? We talk about with men. And then there's also that with my acceptance of myself and my knowledge that like I am in the right place at the right time, doing exactly what I need, right? That I'm not dragging my feet, but that I'm exactly where I need to be when I need to be it and when I need to be there. So, we're always self-healing. Am I on my own? I think ONYI will come back to us soon, but I don't know how to let her into her own live. I will fix my hair though, a little hair break, folks. Do, 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 do. I hope when he comes back, I might need to end this and figure out what she needs from me. I think I can let her into her own thing. If not, I will just She just messaged me on WhatsApp with a emoji that's line eyes, line mouth. Let's see. Let me tell her I'm still here. Stand by, folks. Let me see if I can pause this. I can end it. Let's see if she'll come back. One. I want her to be able to have the full video, but I don't know if I can message her. Damn. Okay. Let's see here. I'm still here. Come back. Thank you for taking this music break with me. Sure that Onyi will edit it and you will have what you need. Oh, she's trying to come back. Mm, 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 mm. All right, I might need to quit. No. Guess. Oh, maybe she's back in. Guess. I can't let you into your own live. All right. Okay. Well, then I'm going to end this. Thank you for being here. If you've been here, thank you for joining us, and we'll probably pop back on. But let me get off so that Onyi can do what she needs to do. Okay. Thanks, everyone.